So we took 9 students, and Dr. Brown decided to join us as well. So he and I worked very collaboratively with the students for about 6 months before we went. The last 4 months we worked very heavily to develop with Dr. Gabura a training program that would be collaborative and culturally situated, culturally fitting. So one of our primary goals and one of our research goals was to look at how do you share knowledge and collaborate across 2 very different cultures, particularly with one being much more powerful and wealthy than the other. We also wanted to make sure that the students had opportunities to challenge their own cultural encapsulation. Many of our students come to us with a high level of social awareness already, but that was a major focus because we believe that the more we can challenge ourselves to think about and work internationally and cross-culturally, the more opportunities we have to become culturally competent.
You know, you learn so much in your program, but until you really apply it, it doesn't make sense to you, you know. And I think going to Uganda, you know, some of those key elements, you know, social justice and issues between the interconnections between like race, class, ethnicity, you know, all of those components, you know, once you really experience it within their context and culture, it begins to make sense to you a little more.
Learning how to apply information across cultures applies within the United States too, because there's so many different cultures here. And so when I'm working with families, I want to remind myself and have the knowledge of how to, you know, take a study or information that we have that was done on this certain group of population and even see if it's applicable or helpful for a family that I'm working with. So I think it's absolutely important and definitely transferable to my work in the future.
This radio show that Dr. Brown and I were on has made a really big difference in Fort Portal. Dr. Gabura started this radio show to educate people about mental health and mental health problems. And since the show began, there has been a real shift in willingness to seek treatment for major mental health disorders and relational problems.
Dear listeners, if you have just tuned in to this program, it is Bishop Magambo Mental Health Care Forum, and I'm Dr. Father Kabura, your weekly host of this program. And I'm hosting 2 guests, Dr. McDowell and Dr. Brown. How have you found this first day with regard to the differences in culture between American families and Ugandan families? I don't know if you have picked any differences or similarities.
I've noticed a lot more similarities than differences. I see that people here and in the States care about their families. They really believe that the solutions to problems rest within the structure of how families work. So there's a lot of talk about connections, about strengths of families, about people wanting to connect to family members that they haven't had connections to in a while. And so there's a great sense of commitment to maintaining the integrity of the family and honoring traditions as well.
Dr. Brown, what I'm hearing you say is that actually human beings are human beings all over. But I'm going to ask you, what are some of the common issues that you think you as family therapists that bring couples and families to seek help?
I think one of the first issues is that people get to a certain point where they don't have the answers themselves. And so they want support from someone that can have a different perspective. And with that perspective, they can begin to find solutions to the problems. So there's usually a sense of exasperation or a sense of being at the end of the ropes. And that can come from marital stress, transitions within the family, someone dying or getting married or a new baby coming into the system. So those are some of the basic things that I see.
The graduate students who went on this trip actually each worked to develop their own knowledge and their ability to facilitate discussions and facilitate work on different areas of family work. So it could be anything from, the way in which family stories are socially constructed to looking at, how to facilitate a conversation about family development in the Ugandan context, things like that.
Lisa and I did 3 presentations. One was on children and family therapy. And actually, this one was the most controversial because children in Uganda are seen so differently than, children here. I was preparing this and I had all this stuff I wanted to say, and I got there and it was just like kind of almost in shock over a lot of those elements that are so different from our culture. I don't feel like, I failed because I didn't get across a message I wanted to get across, because that wasn't the point. The point was, how is this going to fit for them, and having them collaborate. I mean, that's where the success comes from.
Not only was I learning a lot from preparing to go, and then also from the students there and the professors there, but also you're in really close contact with Dr. Brown and Dr. McDowell. It's just like complete immersion and a lot of opportunities to learn.
One of the things that I came back with, and I'm still thinking about it, is community. It was so real there, the way in which there were clans and there were, tribes, and the feeling, that everybody comes together if you have a need. This is something that's missing here. As a therapist, that sense of community is so important for clients. We really need to think about, more about that, about how we can integrate community to build, more resiliency and strengths with clients. Uganda.